Good morning. It's Jim Brayler again. It's kind of a dreary, overcast day, but looking out my window, grass is turning bright green and the trees are starting to bud out. Spring is truly on its way. And it's the Monday after Easter, very different Easter for most of us, and yet a very familiar one, I think, too. The Still Speaking devotional for today is written by Molly Baskett, and it's entitled, "This is Not the End." And she bases her devotional this morning on two different scriptural accounts of the resurrection. The first from Mark chapter 16, verse 8, New Revised Standard Version. "So they went out and fled from the tomb, for terror and amazement had seized them, and they said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid." And the second is taken from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 28, verse 10. "Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee, where they will see me." And Molly writes, Mark ended his masterpiece of a gospel on a cliffhanger, a resurrection with question marks. Luke, Matthew, and John, writing later, embellished the story, adding multiple appearances and new miracles by the risen Jesus. Maybe they had better intel than Mark. Maybe they created fiction for a people craving hope, or maybe they had a lived experience of a Christ who kept showing up, shaping and saving their lives. A double thousand years later, we pick up these four stories and find our own resurrections in them every year. The original Easter story has never ended. It goes on in endless song above earth's lamentations. When the humans I love are facing hard times, which seems to be all the time these days, I'm fond of lifting up the modern proverb. Everything turns out right in the end, and if it's not all right, it's not the end. We will not all survive the current apocalypse. We will not all be raised from our sick beds or our tombs. Some of us will lose jobs or businesses we have spent a lifetime building. Marriages that might have made it otherwise, absurdly pressured by quarantine, will end in divorce. But after all these endings, there will be new beginnings. Some of them visible, tellable, others beyond the veil of earthly death. Easter is not a history lesson with a tidy ending, but an invitation to look past death in all its disguises. After every death, new things get born. You may sometimes have a year of Good Fridays, but Easter will always arrive. It is as inevitable as sunrise after the long night. And Molly's prayer. God, your servants didn't write 4 resurrection stories, but 8 billion. We are all little gospels, still being told. Thank you for telling us. Amen. And there's a lot packed into that. And one of the first things I thought of as listening to the Mark text is that the traditional Mark ending is right there. There's nothing that comes after that. And then there are some verses that were added afterwards. By later editors, most scholars believe. But I don't think it detracts at all from the impact that this story has. If anything, it adds to it. I like what she says at the end, that Easter's not a history lesson with a tidy ending, but an invitation to look past death in all its disguises. Because the reality is, all of us will die eventually. We don't know when that's going to happen. Could be today. Could be 10 years from now. We just don't know. The only thing we know for certain is that we will die. But life does go on. And out of every life that ends in a death comes more life, because we continue to impact those around us by our living. So maybe the answer to the resurrection is not so much what's going to happen to us in the next life, but how the thought that we are so loved will change how we act in this life and how our life will make something new be born when we're gone. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you soon.